We're getting another Rambo movie in Rambo: Last Blood.
Do you think it'll actually be his last blood? Or do you think the last drop of his blood will land on the ground and then grow another Rambo?
A separate Rambo,
Yeah, separate Rambo, yeah.
It's entirely possible. I thought Rambo 4 was going to be the last one, which was just called Rambo.
I mean, he killed the entire population of Myanmar with a machine gun off the back of a flatbed truck.
There's other populations to decimate,
I guess that's true, yeah.
But considering there's Rambo First Blood and then Rambo First Blood Part 2, I wouldn't be surprised if there's Rambo Last Blood, Final Drop, Grown a New Rambo Part 2.
Nice.
And look, it always helps if people could leave a like on this video. We'd love it. But yeah, Rambo 3 is widely considered to be the least popular one, though the most expensive.
Yeah, wasn't it the most expensive film of all time
Absolutely
at the time?
It was, yeah.
And I looked that up, and it was like $60 million, and I'm like, that's so quaint.
Yeah.
They spend more than that on catering on most of these blockbusters these days.
It seems like a lot of this movie just went into explosions and Stallone, because it's not a particularly good-looking or special effects heavy movie aside from the practical element of it.
That's true.
So I think it's the star power which really is driving a lot of this. There's a few things that Stallone requested in his payday, which I'll get to at the end.
Oh, I'm excited for that.
Which kind of added to this.
I love a movie star writer. I think they're always excellent.
Some of my favorites.
But Stallone, this is definitely his oiliest performance, I think.
100%.
Oh my God, he's so oily in this movie. I guess he's supposed to be sweaty, but it's just every part of him's oily. That shaggy, oily hair.
You know what it is? For this movie, everything is kind of bigger. Like, he gets bigger, he's more muscular. I can talk about his training regime. I've got it all here.
Even his face is muscular.
Yes.
I'm fascinated by Stallone's face in this hero.
Yeah.
This guy's got like cheekbones coming out of his forehead. He's got cheekbones coming out of his chin, this guy.
He's known to have some work done. And I think maybe that has something to do with it. But like I said, like the hair's bigger, the knife's bigger.
The bow and arrow's bigger,
Bow and arrow's bigger, yeah. He's like the best he's ever been. He's even good at throwing sheep football. You know, he's the best in the world for some reason.
He's good at stick fighting all of a sudden.
Yeah. I watched the first and second leading up to this. I'd never seen them. And the first one's this quiet, contemplative kind of movie for a lot of it.
It's a mediation on the pressure of war and what it does to people returning from war.
Yeah, like he's considered this drifter. Well, he's a drifter, and people hate him because he's come back from Vietnam, and he has this speech in the end how people spat on him and called him a baby killer, and it ends not in like a massive gunfight. There is that kind of prior in the movie where he explodes a lot of a small town scene for no reason. Because
no one dies.
No one... I think he kills a cop with a rock in the helicopter, but it's not intentional.
Yeah.
He's purposefully not killing people. But there is this sense of like, this is a damaged man who's got a lot of problems. And it was criticized at the time for kind of an anticlimactic ending. But it seems just from 2 onwards, not so much 4, which kind of dials it back a bit. It's just like, he's fine now and he just loves war and killing people that are bows and arrow.
I mean, 2 was basically, hey, let's fight the Vietnam War again.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
This time we'll win, because Rambo's here.
I mean, he was there the first time. But
he's better now.
He
knows where all the traps are.
It's funny though, because it's not very well regarded. 2 and 3 weren't as much. But Stallone's even talked about more recently that this one is missing heart. And it is, because he is this indestructible, unstoppable fighting machine. There's a moment where he gets shot through the leg towards the end, and then you see him get up and put weight on that same leg later to fight a tank.
Yeah.
But I never liked the element in these movies, and it's even in the first one of the Colonel's like, you pushed this man too far. You've started a war with a man that you can't win this war with. I'm not here to save Rambo, I'm here to save you. Rambo will kick your ass out of your head. And I think that unstoppable action man is always the least interesting element of these movies for me.
Absolutely, yeah. What you need in these kind of movies, if you've got that, is maybe a compelling villain, like a funny sidekick or something like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like Rambo 3 doesn't really have either of those, to be honest.
What it does have, though, is the scene that I went, oh shit, this is Hot Shots 2.
Yes,
The stick fighting moment. And Richard Crenna, who plays the Colonel, he reprises his role in Hot Shots 2 to recruit Charlie Sheen to come back to do more Hot Shots.
That's right.
Yeah, and the kill count's also parodied in that because, you know, he's just mowing down. Because this had the highest kill count of any movie at the time. I've got the number here. 221 acts of violence with 108 deaths.
But that does include mean words as well.
Fuck him.
This does have the iconic line where he calls up the main bad guy on the radio, and the bad guy's like, who is this? And he goes,
Your worst nightmare.
Your worst nightmare. That's and upon watching this, I'm like, oh, that's where that's from.
What I thought was really strange about this as well, the Colonel in the other movies is kind of a person for good in Rambo's life. You know, he goes to help him out in one. He recruits him to do Vietnam Again 2 because he knows that there's unfinished business there and he's the best man for the job. But 3, it's like, you want to do some war? You know how you're in this peaceful monastery fixing carts and being a good bloke?
And occasionally stick fighting.
Yeah, fuck that. Do you want to kill 108 people in a country you've never been to? And of course, the only thing that gets him back is the Ruskies. They're in Afghanistan. This was a true event at the time that actually ceased 2 weeks prior to this movie coming out. So there's this evil regime in Afghanistan, which he's going to come in and sort out, which actually has some repercussions if you look at it historically in the modern day, which we'll get to, because the group that he is with are linked to the Taliban. I can come back to that at the end.
Well, that's funny. I mean,
how do you know?
You're not going to know.
You're not going to know. The Russians were the bad guys in the 80s.
Well, they were. Well, that's interesting as well. I think this movie was criticized at the time because in the 80s, the Russians were moving away from being the bad guys.
Yes.
In retrospect, Rambo 3 was ahead of its time because they're back, baby.
They're back, baby. They really are. So I think what tipped these movies over the edge was competition with Arnold, because both of them were notoriously super competitive and hyper aware of the other person's film career and what they were up to.
The relative level of oiliness.
Exactly. They were tricking each other into movie roles. Arnold tricked him into taking Stop or My Mom Will Shoot because he heard that Arnold wanted to do it.
Oh, I see.
So that's why he did that.
But Arnold didn't want to do it.
He absolutely did not want to do it.
Because it sounds like a bad movie.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it even carries on over into the musculature of this.
All right.
Because Commando came out post Rambo 2.
Yeah.
And he was always kind of lean. He was apparently, for the earlier Rocky movies, 2 and 3, he was only eating like burnt toast and working out like 5 hours a day and boxing and running and skipping and doing push-ups and all these crazy things. And he was incredibly unhealthy, but he's like, I got to get this physique. I got to look a certain way.
Yeah, right.
And then,
I got to get those burnt toast abs.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, I think he may have had some help. He claims he's never done any steroids or in this era. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether that's true or not. It is possible to get this physique naturally, but it's not if he was just playing fast and loose with it. Like he did some damage to himself by training this way. Now it's all very scientific and you can give anyone abs with the right training regime. Yeah. It's not what it used to be.
Have some human growth toast. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly, yeah. But for this...
But look, this movie is no Commando.
No,
let me tell you that. I mean,
not.
There is some solid action sequences in this, but there's also some very average action sequences.
It seems like the Commando also is aware of what it is, like the ludicrous nature, where this tries to tell like a more, I don't know, human kind of narrative.
Yeah, a more grown-up kind of realistic narrative. Yeah, like this could be. It's like this was ripped from the headlines, but also what if you got this muscle-bound freak in?
Yeah, exactly.
To end the war.
Well, he went from 173 pounds up to 200 pounds, and that's just pure muscle for this movie. Because the size of this guy in this movie is insane. Mm-hmm. We talked about it. The hair, the oiliness, all of it. It's just bigger. Like he's riding a horse and throwing a Molotov cocktail and all those kinds of things. You mentioned the action side of this, Mason.
Yeah, I did.
It's just not very interesting. Because it's running and shooting, and someone will run out and shoot at him, and he'll stand there, he'll see them, he'll turn, and then he'll shoot them, and then he'll keep running.
Yeah, this is the old school action. This is I like to delineate action movies pre and post The Matrix. There's no continuous shots. There's no long sequences of moves that the stars had to learn. It's just one shots of a bad guy firing, a good guy ducking, a good guy standing up and shooting back, a bad guy being shot and falling off a cliff or whatever.
Exactly.
There's an action sequence in a cave where the Russians send in like the Spetsnaz special forces.
Yes.
And only one of them has like night vision goggles for some reason. I guess maybe this was the 80s, so they were really expensive then. It's not like now when you can go down to Aldi and get a pair of night vision goggles.
Exactly. Your phone does it.
Yeah, but like this sequence, it's dark, but also the whole time you have no idea where anybody's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like it's not even like this is confusing because it's chaotic and it's war. It's just like, is there a main cavern and then there's some gantries?
How far underground is this?
How far we don't know. Is it really that dark? Is it pitch black? Like what's
what's the lighting source in any of this?
Exactly, yeah. No idea.
There's a couple of parallels to this and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
And then this is just after the tank explodes.
Like the desert showdown, I think, with the tank and the horse. That's all done in The Last Crusade, but it's done so much better because you know where everybody is, you know who everybody is, and the main character is more kind of sympathetic and he gets hurt. Vic Armstrong, who's the stunt double for Harrison Ford, he also was on board for this movie.
Oh.
But there's just something missing here, which Indiana Jones managed to pull off.
Well, you know what number one I think is probably a sense of humor.
Yes.
And apparently, I can't remember his name, but somebody will be screaming at us almost instantaneously. The original director on this was going to be the director of Highlander.
Oh, and he was fired.
And he was fired. He was like, I'm going to try to make this funnier. evolve Rambo's character and evolve him to more of a human.
Yeah.
Or like a character that's maybe softened over the years or something like that. But Stallone was not having that. So Mulcahy was replaced by Peter MacDonald, who's a second unit director. It was his first film as director. He directed the second unit action sequences in Rambo First Blood Part 2.
Right.
But he later said, I tried very hard to change the Rambo character a bit and make him a vulnerable and humorous person. I failed totally.
That's not incorrect.
Yeah.
But Mason, you said this movie doesn't have a sense of humor, and I disagree. Because Sylvester Stallone had a close call with a spinning helicopter rotor blade.
Oh, that is funny.
In fact, if he had have been struck, it would have almost certainly decapitated him. But Stallone laughed it off at the time with this quip, well, at least I would have saved a fortune on haircuts.
He's done it again. There is one great action sequence that I did enjoy. I feel it still holds up as one of the all-time great bad guy deaths.
Stick fight! No. Sorry,
it's the one where he fights the Russian general's henchman. A fist fight kind of grapple on top of a hill, which leads to the bad guy getting Rambo in the death grip and kind of crushing him in his mighty grip. And then Rambo pulls the pin out of one of the bad guy's hand grenades.
He's down the hole.
He falls down a hole. His neck snaps and then he explodes.
That is good, yeah.
It's a good solid finale for that guy, I think.
Anyways, it didn't do super well. It was a $63 million budget and it made $189, which is okay, but it was considered like, this kind of just broke even because again, you got a double marketing and all those kinds of things. But the second one, $300 million off $44 million. So that's for comparison's sake. Aside from Stallone getting like a massive payday for this, he also asked for a Gulfstream jet, which cost $12 million.
He must still own it, surely.
He's probably updated.
He's probably updated, yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do you think he's getting that HGH into different countries, mate? He's got a super.
He's got a network.
Jet.
I get it. Yeah.
For those people who don't know, I think it was human growth hormone or something that he brought into Australia at the time.
I remember that.
At the time of Rambo 4, which I know is just called Rambo, but it's less confusing if I call it Rambo 4. But the thing is, a lot of actors do take this supplement or whatever you want to call it, this steroid. They reckon in a few years it's going to be one of those things that everybody's on. If you watch a Joe Rogan podcast, he brings it up at least 4 to 7 times.
Oh yeah,
an episode.
Because his memory's failing. Is that why?
It's sharper than ever, mate. With all these sustenance.
Yeah.
I think it's very much like a vanity project. This one.
Yeah.
Like I like a lot of Stallone's work, but there was a period when it was just like this and Cobra and just stuff where it's like, I see what you're doing, but these aren't super compelling characters.
For sure, yeah. Give us a little vulnerability. Give us a sense of humor. Give us Tango and Cash.
Well, I think even if you look at Demolition Man, it's a ridiculous movie, but there is a sense of fun to it.
For sure,
and I think that kind of world holds up more than this, for example. We should do Demolition Man.
Absolutely, we should do Demolition Man.
Anyways, in relation to the freedom fighters that Stallone is running around with, and it says at the end, dedicated to the people of Afghanistan and that. So, look, they're not strictly Taliban. So what happened as a result of this, right?
That's what they changed. They changed the title sequence at the end on the Blu-ray version, where it just look, they're not strictly Taliban, all right?
So they were
how are we supposed to know?
Their name translates to Warriors of God, and they're made up of a whole lot of different factions, which then split off. And the Taliban actually formed properly in like the mid-90s. Was it 94? Something like that. Yeah.
It's chaos over there.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And this was also, again, during the Soviet occupation. And the people of Afghanistan, as probably people know, had the backing of the CIA for the common enemy that was the Russians at the time. But yeah, it's more complicated than he's just fighting with the Taliban.
Exactly.
They didn't all become the Taliban, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, only the ones Rambo left behind. They became the Taliban specifically.
Anyways, this has been Caravan of Garbage. We do this every week, believe it or not, every Tuesday. If you want to subscribe, please do so. But look, if you do have thoughts on like what's your favorite Rambo movie or what you want to see next on Caravan of Garbage.
Yeah, should they do a Rambo 6?
Last Blood Part 2? But we'll do anything. We'll do a comic, a movie, a TV show, a video game. Let us know.
A Laserdisc?
A Laserdisc. And just this Monday past, we also have a podcast called The Weekly Planet where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. We talked about the filmography of Stallone. The hits, the misses. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Like, we kind of rubbish this movie and some of his other works. But he's done a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting discussion, which people can come along for.
He's a real cinematic dynamo.
And he keeps going.
And he's writing and he's acting and he's doing various supplements.
He's got weird, big, veiny forearms and hands.
Oh my God, it's insane. How does he pick up a pen?
Anyways, I'm at Mr. Sunday Movies on Twitter.
I'm at Wikipedia Brown on Twitter.
Thanks for sticking around.
Grab that gem, you guys. We'll see you next week.
It's